Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Jason.
Hello, everyone.
And Miranda.
Hello, everybody.
I got jumbled up on my J's there for a second.
Well, it's better than last time.
You're right. So anyways, we have a lovely guest in the studio today. Would you care to introduce him and or what are his exploits? What do you?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Okay.
Hey everyone. I don't know. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm not sure what time it is wherever you're at listening. My name is Bill Moragne. I'm very excited to be here. Appreciate y'all letting me come talk to you guys. And I'm no expert by any means. I'm just another average Joe. So thanks.
Love it. So Bill, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. A little bit of time out of your day for our show. What is the tantalizing subject that we're going to be talking about today? What we got on the books?
Well, I think we were going to discuss the idea of the accuracy of what we find on social media. So we're bombarded with so much information out there, and how truthful it all is.
Or even just the evolution of social media too.
Yeah.
That's a big topic right there in and of itself. We had talked a little bit about it on the pre-show just a second ago. It feels like such a different world that we're in now with social media than it was even whenever I started off on it once upon a time. So,
social media is dominating life now. So there's a lot of people that get their news now from social media. So it's it's not just a niche anymore. It's now pretty much a dominant force in media.
I feel like the kind of work that I have done or do now, I feel like I have to have social media, like to keep up, like being an artist in some way. Like there is other avenues, but it just feels like because people make it very obvious that because I don't have social media accounts at certain spaces, or I don't, follow up on them like I should, that, I'm doing a disservice to myself. And I'm like, I hear you, but I feel mentally a lot better now not having some social media in my life. So,
I remember when MySpace came, and I don't recall having a MySpace account. I remember people talking about it at the time.
Oh yeah,
eventually, then Facebook came, and then so many people were on it. So let me go and get an account, and I've kind of I've stuck with some of the basics. I mean, Facebook. I'm of course by default Instagram.
Right.
I had Twitter for a while. I got rid of it a long time ago, and then I just kind of reactivated it again, even though I don't really get on it. I think I may have a LinkedIn account, but I can't tell you the last time I actually checked the account.
I was in my teenage years. You guys won't believe this, but whenever I was in my early teenage years, and I was picking up playing guitar. I was like a very beginner stage musician back when I was 13 or whatever. I also had a bunch of friends, and we were all skater boys, and so we all had our skateboards, all had the stuff, and MySpace was just so part of that culture as well. And the rock scene that I was a part of, and the skating scene that I was a part of, that just felt like such a big thing. That I just remember it was for me, it feels like Facebook before there was Facebook. It was the place where I went to if we were all friends, I would add different friends or whatever, and I would follow musicians, keep up with new album releases and stuff like that. So it just feels like such a different time as opposed to what social media is now.
Yeah, well, I'm going to dive into this because I have a lot of information.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I have something here. It says the accuracy of news on social media in the United States. This is a 2022 article. It said, according to a survey from February of 2022, a majority of American adults express concerns about the news they find on social media. 42% of adults said they worried a lot about whether or not the news they find there was accurate. Just 12% said that they had no concerns about the accuracy of the news and information they read on social media. So,
wow.
Pretty interesting stuff. I mean, I got a lot here, but go ahead.
I think that what we've seen is social media has allowed it to be a lot easier for propaganda to be put out there. And, we can just look at the pandemic itself for that. Look at all the stories about ivermectin and all this kind of craziness and, how they demonize that medicine in the social media realm and in the news. Yet, they were calling it horse medicine and cow medicine, and it was so far off the mark that now they've backtracked and they said, oh yeah, it cured COVID, for less than $1 a patient. Meanwhile, the remdesivir that they were giving people was almost $4,000 a dose, and so it was just like, okay, I'm always big on following the money trail, and that often leads you to where the truth lies. But I think that, now when we look at social media, you've got all these little armchair warriors that are sitting back and, they've got a lot of testicular fortitude from the comfort of their living room or from their basement. But, it's like, in the pandemic, everybody that went and got a couple of shots all of a sudden was an expert on public health. And anyone that questioned it was demonized. And we see that in so many different topics. And, I posted in my Facebook group, we were talking about all these groups. I've had a Facebook group with about 10,000 women in it for the past almost 10 years. And so I posted this question to them today. And I was just like, okay, tell me what do you hate seeing because it's so inaccurate on social media? And it was really interesting to see some of the responses.
Oh, I'm curious about that. Mm-hmm. What did they...
The largest ones was a lot of the historical stories that you'll see that never tell the whole story. You see all these little videos that are just, everything is clickbait now.
Right. Well, to get views.
Yep. My personal one is all these, crazy chiropractic adjustments that you see on TikTok that just horrify me. Yeah, let's. Mm-hmm. Okay. Tell me some of the ones that you've seen, and I will address it. How's that? Because it is scary what you see out there.
Let's talk about the Y strap.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's the big one that I always see.
Which one is? What is that one?
The Y strap.
I've heard of it, but
it almost looks like a seatbelt type of material.
Okay.
It's a little strap that they put on the neck, and the chiropractor will pull up, and it's supposed to adjust the Y-axis of the spine. That's why it's called a Y strap.
Okay.
So you've got your X-axis and your Y-axis, and
it's
it's adjusting on the Y. I have been in practice since 2001. I know of one chiropractor who uses a Y strap. It is not widespread. It has a very specific use. But these people on TikTok, it looks like they're going to pop off heads the way they're doing it. Yeah. And it's all showboating, and it's all
to help reinforce your point. I think I've seen someone do that with like a towel, mm-hmm. and he did it, and she started crying because she had felt like she had some sort of euphoria, like it relieved pain that she never had before. And I was like, this feel, And it lingered for a while, and I was like, I've done filmmaking long enough. I'm like, you're really trying to drum up this emotional time, and she started crying, and she's like, this is the best. And I was like, I was on board with the whole thing until that happened, and I'm like, now you kind of broke my, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of these chiropractors, and I looked up some of the numbers on what some of these chiropractors have for followings, and it was like one had 3.1 million followers, and the other one was 1.8 million, 1.3 million. So there's a lot of people watching these videos, but it doesn't do our profession any favors. Because I think that, in all of our lives, 2/3 of us are going to experience back pain at some point, but only 10% of the population will go and see a chiropractor. which is, it's kind of insane to me because, that is our specialty. Mainstream medicine doesn't do a whole lot for low back pain. They kind of give you some palliative stuff and they send you home, with either some muscle relaxants or maybe some painkillers and tell you to ice it. And that's all they do because what they want to do is try to outweight you because 80% of low back pain will resolve on its own given enough time. So if they give you some palliative care and send you on your way, chances are 80% you're going to feel better. And then you're like, oh, my doctor did me, he did me great. But, these jokers that are doing these crazy adjustments, and it always seems like they're doing them on strippers or something
of course.
On TikTok. Everybody's scantily clad.
Of course.
It's not real life where it's, a 400-pound man who farts when you give them an adjustment.
That's why I skip those.
That's real life right there. You won't see that on YouTube.
No, you won't see that on YouTube.
No.
But you know what? That's the real world.
You're right. You're right.
True.
It is.
We all have Febreze in our office,
Yeah.
Love it.
But, I think it scares people into thinking, okay, that, because it's violent. And most of our adjustments are not. We don't, the standard of care doesn't involve doing all these rotatory twisting and, that's just not how most of us adjust. Most of us are very gentle. We use high velocity, it's our adjustment, it's fast, but we don't move things very far. It's a very precision adjustment. And so, with this, the amplitude, it's not a deep thrust. And you see these people doing these crazy things online, and I'm just like, nope. And then, it's like everywhere I go, I always hear people say, well, I don't trust chiropractors, or I don't believe in chiropractic, or my doctor told me never to go to one because they've had 5 patients that all had strokes from it. And I'm just like, BS. I call BS. And, and the statistics to back that up, I've got them.
Yeah.
Well, I always like statistics.
You do, and I appreciate that about you, Jason, because I'm a numbers person too. From 1988 to 2018, there were only 48 cases involving chiropractors, malpractice cases involving chiropractors reported to the national database that tracks that. And in 70.8% of those cases, those lawsuits, the chiropractors won. They were not proven to have done any damage. Only 20% the patients won, and the rest was a draw, or they ceased the case or whatever else.
Yeah.
Chiropractors, and this is not the hill I'm going to die on, because there are people in the profession that are far more proficient at elaborating on all the statistics on it. But we have one of the lowest malpractice rates of any healthcare profession. I think the average across the country, it's around $3,000, $2,700, $3,000. The average MD is paying between $7,500 and $10,000, but depending on the specialty, it can go up to over $200,000 a year for malpractice insurance. So often, orthopedic surgeons, gynecologists, they're paying those big bucks for their malpractice. The average internist is paying between $15,000 and $40,000 a year. The average surgeon is over $40,000 a year. So, for us to have a malpractice of $2,760 as our average, that tells you, because all those numbers are based on claims made and payable claims. We don't have a lot of them. Is
that before or after you tell them you're going to do the Y-strap?
You're right.
That's the big question.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it just doesn't make sense. And when you look at the data, where people are saying, and you would not believe how many doctors will tell their patients that I've got 5 patients that have had a stroke or, have had some sort of event because of a chiropractor. And I can 1,000% say it didn't happen. And this is right here. The National Institute of Health, which is not a chiropractic-friendly organization. It is a medical organization. They report that the risk of serious adverse events following chiropractic manipulation is 0.05 to 1.46 per 10 million manipulations. So that's approximately 1 or less per 10 million adjustments. So there are about 70,000 chiropractors registered in the United States. About 40 to 50,000 of them still practice. And if the average chiropractor sees 20 patients a day and works 4 days a week, 50 weeks a year, that's about 4,000 adjustments each. So if you work for 25 years, they'll do about 100,000 adjustments. And maybe 1/3 to 1/2 of those 100,000 adjustments will include a neck adjustment. So that means only 1 in 100 chiropractors will ever have a serious adverse event in their practice for the entire duration of their career.
That just sounds like it's bound to happen.
It's
well,
what is it? What is it?
I think the perception that social media, it doesn't take many people for the same message to kind of, reverberate in the social media chamber. Mm-hmm. And when people start sharing things, it kind of maybe gives the impression that there's more there than what is reality.
Yep.
And I that's where I think a lot of that comes from. It's the same with perception with anything.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it. I mean, you just pick a topic. Crime, for example, is a perfect example.
How about fitness?
Yeah.
Fitness is a big one. Those of you that can't see, there is someone at this table that is a physical specimen. That is Jason. Jason is a physical specimen. So you see so many things about, and I know you have a background in dietetics. Diets are huge. You have all these people that have these massive followings, and it's eat this, eat that, do this, do that, exercise
I don't believe
this
any
way,
of that.
exercise that way. And you could just Google right now fitness information and get hundreds of people that have been sued because whatever advice they were giving had no statistical background, had no data to back up what they were saying. They just had a following because they genetically look good.
I think they just, for whatever reason, for that person, whatever they're doing works for them. But everybody's different. Everybody's body chemistry is different, and you don't know what genetics you're carrying. So, I mean, it just depends. So I don't, you got to be careful with some of that stuff. I'm very, I sometimes, I catch myself, and I'm reading articles, and I remember reading an article, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I went to my doctor, and I was saying, I've read this, and I got this, and it's saying I have this. You got time out. You don't have that. But I mean, sometimes you just, as I said, people are bombarded, and I've got people I know that really go to social media for a lot of her medical advice. Yeah. And I've got to a point where, I go to my doctor. He's, reads all the current literature. He's been to medical school. We have one-on-one conversation. I'll trust what he says.
Yeah, I take all that social media with a grain of salt, and I always trust my doctor, always.
Well, I will say this, though, but just to kind of give you an idea on just social media breakdown by generation. Since this is a generational podcast, I've tried to find some stats to break down the different groups. But as far as Gen Z, 50% utilize social media daily. And it breaks down further than that. Like the categories are daily, a few times per week, once per week, a few times per month, once per month, less than a month, and never. And so at Gen Z, it's 50% that are using social media daily. So they're the ones engaging all these sites and probably getting this kind of information. Millennials are at 45%. Gen X, 39%, and boomers at 24%. And of course, these numbers break down accordingly. But I did find it interesting that Gen Z appear generally skeptical of all news sources, but they're the ones most likely going to social media. Now, there are some explanations put forth why that may be. Some said that they're sophisticated enough to kind of sift through the BS, so they feel comfortable in knowing, okay, well, I think that's BS and versus this is truth, which I don't know how truthful that is.
I think that's a false sense of security.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but I find it interesting that according to this study, it says Gen Z appear generally skeptical of all news sources, and they considered social media was the least trustworthy source, though only slightly behind cable news, network news, podcasts, whereas older respondents were more divided, clearly favoring traditional over digital news outlets.
I wonder how many Gen Zs even have cable nowadays, because to me,
probably zero.
I haven't had TV in years, and I'm a Gen X. I would imagine that I'm probably fairly representative of a big portion of people that have just cut the cable. We just don't have those expenses anymore.
I'm an early millennial. We haven't had cable in probably 5 years.
Yeah.
There was a point. I remember whenever I had cable in our home for a while, but I remember it was whenever like YouTube started to get like a really big like base of people that would like upload entertaining content. So like sometime around like 2008 or whatever it was, or 9 or 10 or something like that, was when like that became like my primary source of entertainment, and that was more than television.
That's the problem. You paid $100 for cable. Well, then you cut the cord. But now I paid $10 for this, $10 for that.
Yeah. They just nickel and dime you.
Well, and that's but again, that was before subscriptions for like streaming services were a thing. So for me, like I just used to.
I'm paying for streaming services. I have DirecTV, but I never really watch TV. I'm always on my phone.
There was whenever I went to go get internet for this house, the guy tried to like convince me to buy a package, and he was like a younger guy, and I looked at him straight in the face, and I was like, and I did this respectfully. I was like, I don't want you to waste your breath, because I was like, I'm in here to get the top-notch internet package, because that's the only thing people are going to want in that house.
Right.
And I was like, I don't need your cable, don't need show packages. I'm not a sports fan. Like, you don't got to just...
Right.
I'm here for what I want. You don't got to worry about doing a whole spiel. And he's like, I got it. I know. Yeah. So I was like, I want this one, this many gigabytes. Call it quits. And he's like, cool, got it.
Yeah. I'm sure that's the trend.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think that's why all these cable companies have
streaming services
switched to individual channel subscriptions, because they're trying to get you any way they can.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're gonna make their money. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just everybody's trying to game the system. It's like somebody's delivering this content to you. You're gonna have to pay money one way or the other. I don't believe in nothing's free.
No.
In this world. I mean, you're going to pay for something. So, what the number one country in the world who actually purchase news content?
What's that?
The number one country in the world that purchases news content. Norway.
Really?
Norway is by number, they are the largest population that actually purchases news content.
I never would have guessed that. Never.
Norway, followed by Sweden, Australia, Finland, and then the United States.
A lot of Scandinavian countries.
The least is Japan and the UK.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's just like to pay for news?
Paying for news sources, yeah.
Wow.
You're talking like subscription?
Yeah.
Like you go to the click on the newspaper
they
website
look at this and
subscription.
Yeah, they look at this and go, there's so much information, so they're like, okay, we're going to charge, okay, this is legit news, so you're paying for it, so it's hopefully they're being a little bit more careful with their so yeah, it's Norway, which I found.
Well, with the exception of Australia on that list, they're all, those Scandinavian countries where it can be, dark for 23 hours of the day for part of the year.
I imagine.
So maybe they're a little more selective on what they're watching.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but if I can't sleep in the middle of the night, the first thing I do is I go to my cell phone, I pick it up, I look at Twitter, I look at news. It's like a 24/7 thing now. Back when I was a kid, your trusted sources for news was the news. That's all you had. you had news. I remember when CNN, your Fox News, is when they went 24/7, and we were like, this is amazing. We have news whenever we want it.
Yeah.
And before that, it was just, if you missed the news at 10 o'clock, well, you just missed the news. You didn't find out what was happening until the next day.
Well,
That's
up until World War II, a lot, especially if you lived in a metropolitan area, there was a morning newspaper and an evening newspaper. Because that was, prior to TV, that was your news. And, then it went to just a daily. And now, how many papers do you think that, that the...
Barely weekly.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just and everybody's switching to a free format because people aren't willing to pay for it.
Well, Ian, and you talked about Canada on my list. Canada's right above Japan in the least that actually purchases.
Right.
But that's because we're cheap.
Well, the thing is, I can say this may out me. Like, I don't pay for any kind of news outlet. I don't that's not a thing that I would really worry about. But also, I'm not the one to go and specifically reach out for news anyways.
Well, the most popular online news brands in the United States as of February this year is Yahoo News and CNN.com.
Interesting.
Followed closely by the New York Times and Fox News.
Wow.
So
that's
three very left-leaning sources and one more right-leaning.
Yeah, and a lot of that depends on where you lean politically, as far as what news sources that you trust. Because believe me, it's broken down by Republicans, Democrats, and how they view.
Do you have information on the top paid service? Like if it's Drudge or...
No, I don't think I have anything like that. I don't have that. I really don't. More of trust in certain sites. I didn't see anything about Drudge. Now, of course, I just didn't go into that. But
it'd be an interesting question.
Well, they said a survey held in February of examining trust in the accuracy of news and information from various sources revealed that radio was considered the most trustworthy place to get news.
What? Radio?
Radio. With 64% of surveyed Americans saying...
Are we in the 50s? I don't like that.
Saying that they had some or a lot of trust in radio news. Social media was the least trusted source, with 58% of adults saying they had little or no trust in news and social networks.
Wow.
What that's telling me is we're addicted to social media. That's why so many people go to it. But yet, it's I hate it at the same time. It's I take a drug.
Right.
I hate that I'm taking the drug, but I can't help but taking the drug. So
the thing is, I think it's all the foundation. The foundation of social media is all about to get your attention and hold your attention.
Hit.
And we all know that now. The thing is,
hit.
after all these years of having social media, I think we all kind of understand what's happening here. We all understand that it's a place that you go to advertise something to you. You go there to get this feel good feeling or whatever, and companies are preying on that. We all know that now. And so now I feel that's whereas probably 5-10 years ago we may have felt a little differently about social media. I feel a majority of people are probably on that same page now, where it's I would like to get news, but I'm on this platform that at its foundation is trying to just feed me things and make me feel a certain way, when it's
well, social media has changed, and as someone who has
even since 2020,
I have made my living off of social media for the past decade.
Right.
It has treated me very well. 10 years ago, people got online, and you were online to interact. And so you were going on to Facebook, and you were going on to these different sites with the idea of getting educated, learning, interacting. There was a lot of message boards back then.
Right.
You remember message boards?
Yeah, the bulletin boards.
Can you
that
think
were
of
big.
any,
yes.
that they barely exist now.
Right.
And now in the past couple of years, we've seen everything switch in the era of TikTok to short form video, which Facebook and TikTok and everybody, Instagram has all switched to this short form video. And so you've got all these people that just mindlessly swipe. And so instead of going to social media to interact, they're going there to watch videos, and they're just sitting and scrolling. And it is a different level of interaction. And I think that, their attention span is so small that instead of going onto a website and reading all the threads and reading, posting on message boards and making friends and, with people that are, in different countries or whatever, you're just sitting there and you're watching these videos. And, there's an expression that comparison is the thief of joy. And I really do feel like that people that are watching Instagram and TikTok and all these kind of things, you can't help but compare your life to what you're seeing on there. And there's so many inaccuracies, right? From, there's, and I probably, with the statistics that you were talking about, there's probably 2 or 3 times as many women going on social media as men. But, it's as a woman, I'm probably getting different ads than you guys on your phones. Mm-hmm. But it's just like you'll see all these ads for like face creams or, anti-wrinkle this or whatever. And it's like they're all blurred and focused and filtered and all this kind of stuff. And it's like nobody is real. It's just like the real factor is gone. But people that aren't necessarily tech savvy are going on there and they're watching these videos and they're comparing their life to what they see, these picture perfect meals and these, all these little snapshots from these influencers. And, I think it sets people up for depression. I think it sets people up for a false sense of reality. And it's just like I look at some of these dietary supplement ads. And, there's doctors on there that are saying, you can lose 3 pounds of fat a day and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, in what universe did you go to medical school? Because one, that's not healthy. That's not ever advocated. You see some scary stuff on there, yet people are pulling out their pocketbooks and they're paying for this or they're buying it hook, line, and sinker. And to me, that leaves a bad taste for everybody.
Well, speaking of TikTok, I've got something here. Share of adults in the United States who regularly get their news from TikTok has been steadily increasing since 2020.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, according to the Pew Research Center, I think it was like 10%. They say 3% of those surveyed by the Pew Research Center stated they regularly get their news from TikTok. By 2022, this figure had reached 10%. When accounting for age group, the breakdown is revealing. 9% of 18 to 29-year-old respondents regularly receive news from TikTok in 2020. However, this number sharply increased to 26% in 2022. Even among 30 to 49-year-old individuals, an increase from 2% in 2020 to 10% in 2022. Among those 50 to 64, the increase has been more modest, from 1% to 4%. So, TikTok is now it's gradually becoming a news generator for people. Mm-hmm. And they're going to check their news. Now, that's disturbing because I know what's on TikTok, and if that's where you're going to get your news, well...
Did you see Facebook in the news this week? It has come out that... the Biden administration orchestrated a lot of the things that we've seen on Facebook over the past couple of years, and they're in some hot water over that.
Well, I mean, I think this goes back to probably all the things that happened with the last presidential election and the collusion of big tech with the federal government and restricting right. All that stuff, so all that kind of plays into this, why people have this distrust now of what's out there, because nobody knows what's real.
But I think the big thing though with TikTok is that it is the place that everyone's at right now.
I agree.
I think it's once upon a time it was like the new way to do content, but now I feel like it's the place. Once upon a time, it was Facebook. I think Instagram had its little time in the sun, or Snapchat had its little time as well. But like TikTok is now the place where like if you don't have it, you feel like you're outed. Like you don't, like you're not in the loop. You don't have like TikTok. Like I feel like even coworkers, and I'm like, why do you have TikTok of all people? And I'm like, oh yeah, because it's like it's the new thing to have.
Yeah, because in 2004 when Facebook started, I was still in college.
Yeah,
and you had to have a .edu account to actually get onto Facebook as a platform. Well, at that age, we used it as a networking, relationship builder, meeting people. That's morphed now to influencing, and these people make, you're talking about $1 billion industry on what these people are making, and what do you know is true? Because you pull up CNN, they say one thing. You pull up Fox News, it's another expert with a different opinion. And then you go to TikTok, and you go to this site, and it's very hard to actually understand what the truth is, because no matter what show you watch, there's some point where you hear something, you go, well, you question what you hear. At what point do you differentiate between being real and between false? And I don't know.
I think the nature, though, of how social media has evolved now, it's about clicks. You know, everybody's trying to become famous out there, and that's what social media. One thing what social media has done is basically made celebrity status, I think, more available to the general population than it was in the past.
There are people, there's like a new wave of people on the internet that, because many algorithms positively benefit you for getting more views, more likes, and more comments more than anything else, because you're getting more like interaction on a post. Like people now have resorted to like saying things that are semi-false in such like a definite way that like it gets people that potentially know the truth about the matter to like really start like.
It's inflammatory. It's all clickbait.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Clickbait.
So like because I even got sucked into it a little bit as well. Like I have to use Facebook for work because of the company that I'm with. Me getting on there just for a second, and I saw something that someone had posted, and he was so vehemently saying something that was like incorrect, just slightly, to where I was like, that's wrong. I feel like I need to correct or need to like let people know. And then when I went to the comments, there were so many comments, and it was so just like filled with people that were outraged. I was like, oh, this is like a tactic. Like this is not, that person knows better. Because I saw a trend. I wasn't just that one post, but I was like, and other people do the same sort of thing as well. But I was like, man, we're getting into a scary place now. We're like,
we all grew up in a time where we can compare some of these things. Like I've got young kids, they're growing up in this, and they see this as this is all they know.
Yeah, they
can't go back and say, oh yeah, remember when we just had the 10 o'clock news?
Right.
They just think everything. They're very instant. They want everything now and 5 minutes ago.
Yeah,
it's not like, hey, you need to wait till the radio comes on, and we're gonna hit the record button on the cassette player, and that's what's gonna record the music. Well, Dad, you didn't just click a button and the song played? No, it's not instant like that.
Right.
Things are different.
Or remember recording things on a tape off the radio
and
having to sit there and go back and forth to
calling
the
DJ.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, the genie's not the bottle now. I mean, if anything, it's just going to get more and more.
And that's the scary thing with like Amazon too. Like the fact that like they keep pushing this boundary of like you can have it in 10 minutes. You can have it right now.
Well, did you see now? I was at Whole Foods, and now you can pay with your palm.
What?
You can pay with your palm.
I'm a tech nerd, and I've never heard of that.
Believe it or not, they have at the local Whole Foods here that I visit regularly. You can now, they've got another reader next to and it is something you set up that you can flash your palm and it charges your credit card. Because I guess
I just don't trust that.
Yeah,
I will not be an early adopter of that technology.
If you get a chance, go, I think it's called Amazon One or something like that. But
Amazon scares the hell out of me.
I remember going to Disney about 10 years ago when they had that technology where they had gone from having the bands and the little cards
now
to fingerprint scans.
It's like it's almost a biometric type of technology. But yeah, you can obviously you go in, you probably do something with your palm or something, and it registers and links to your credit card, and you just now you don't even have to pull out. You can just put your hand out. And it charges your card.
With how many big big hacks that we've seen with, big companies, state of Louisiana getting hacked, all these companies that have had data breaches. Do you trust signing up for something like a service like that? Like, I wouldn't.
No, I don't. I mean,
I trust all private companies.
It's like, but that's where we're going. I mean, just like, the Fed rolling out the digital currency. I mean, it's coming. I mean, it's as much as we're like screaming at the top, of our lungs saying we need to be careful with this. I just think we're going full blast. I don't see it going back. I mean, if anything, it's just going to get more and more.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, which is a good segue. And maybe this is a whole nother topic to discuss. Artificial intelligence.
We had a whole show about that. And it's a sensitive subject.
I know it's a very sensitive topic, but AI to me is very scary. When Google themselves come out and say, we wrote it and it's changing itself.
Yeah.
You've already got deep fakes. You've got some experts that know how to make things look really real, and they're far from it. You've got people with entire YouTube channels that have millions of followers, and the whole thing is fake. Everything. Yeah. And that's what scares me. And there's a safety and security side of that too. So you have so many things where, like, our kids growing up in this generation, well, now you've got safety information, security information that's fake, and these stories that fake. We all remember the story back in the day when, if someone flashes their headlights at you, they're gang members and they're going to kill you. Well, come to find out that's extremely false. Well, now that's just exacerbated with social media. And there's no way to discern what's real and what's not real. And we're at a point where it's almost like it's created this virtual reality, which is a whole other topic,
right,
of how the future is going to be. Like, what's the next part?
And I have two words that perfectly demonstrate how dangerous social media can be and what the outcome might be. Tide Pods.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Because you know what? That wouldn't have happened 20 years ago.
No.
Nobody would have been sitting around eating Tide Pods.
Well, talk about you're talking about AI. I've got some information here. Attitudes to AI replacing news reporters in the United States. 2023 study. A survey revealed that just 13% of responding Gen Z adults in the United States in April of 2023 were very concerned about artificial intelligence replacing news reporters.
And that news is tailorable. So you now can custom. You've got Apple News, right, where you select what you like. So if you select right-wing sources, well, you get right-wing news. If you select left-wing, then you get left-wing news. Well, the problem is that then creates somebody that doesn't see both sides. They see one side, which maybe that's what they want, but now you're controlling what that person is being fed.
The fringes start dominating the general discourse, and it's you just nobody can reach any sort of consensus.
And we've made, as Americans, we've made fun of Russia for years with their Pravda, their propaganda machine, and here we are.
It's here.
The thing is, anytime someone talks about AI stuff, the only thing I'm able to see out of it is just some guy at the top who doesn't want to pay someone to do a job. Like, it kind of, it's the same thing with, like, people have been having this discussion for many years about self-checkout at grocery stores. They're like, oh my gosh, making me work to do the whole, you've heard it. Anybody who's been around, you've heard the whole debate about that. But it's like, I think when you boil it all the way down, it's like, we're just trying to cut costs. And it's that person that's a cashier. Let's go ahead and just like make that not a problem. Because for 1 to 2 cashiers to like look over this little station of like 6 to 10 of them, it's more efficient, whatever. And I feel like that's the same way. It's like nobody's asking. I can almost guarantee nobody's asking for an AI news reporter. I could be wrong.
I mean, this is disturbing. If only 13% of the generation that's coming up, if they're not concerned about AI and any, then AI is just going to become a part of life.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just why and they're going to accept it as normal.
Before we had the topic on AI, I had these little conversations throughout some of the episodes because I feel really heated about it because I think that people aren't taking it as seriously as it should be. over the course of a year has gone from nothing to what it is now, which is scary enough as it is. But the big thing is, like, again, none of us are asking for some of that stuff, but it's going to be given to us. And if we don't sit here and say, hey, like, I'm not cool with that,
you're going to be given something.
That's what I'm saying. So at that point, it's like, I'm not a news reporter, but I would feel upset if, I would like to potentially learn how to fly one day. I kind of want to be a pilot. There are people higher ups as you can imagine, in aerospace travel, that want to make AI pilots a very real thing, to where you can have one person that can probably overlook a whole system or whatever.
So basically, every plane would be a drone.
Which I know, there's already autopilot, but I mean, like, what I'm saying is, like, they're really trying to find out, like, all you pilots that are really good, we're paying you a lot of money, and if we can just, like, not do that, that's what it feels like. You know what I mean? Like, there are probably some benefits to it, but I think more so than anything else, we're trying to really cut corners here,
and then we can call it Skynet.
And there you go.
I think we got a long way to go before people would feel comfortable getting on an airplane.
I'm not saying, I'm not saying.
I'm not saying we're not.
No.
I'm not saying we're not going to.
But
we're not going to go get there. But I think right now,
to take words out of your own mouth, you're going to get given it. If you're going to go get a plane ticket, there's going to be probably. I wouldn't be surprised if in a handful of years there's one person up there that's the facade of a pilot, but he probably doesn't touch anything.
Hey, for half the price. You can fly this plane with no pilot and a drone. Now we've done
Spirit Airlines and JetBlue are going to be the first ones to roll this out.
I'll never get on Spirit Airlines again. I did it once. I'm like, nope, that's not going to happen again.
But
I think what we're going to see is, we've got an aging population, and we don't have enough of a younger population to take the place of all of the worker bees, so to speak. And it's epidemic in Japan and many of the Asian countries right now. There's whole books on the economics of the population aging out, and there's not enough people to take all the jobs that are opening up. And so we're going to have AI-centric positions and care and things kind of foisted upon us just from the fact that there is no person to take this job. So, you're going to be monitored in your old age home by AI. The taxi drivers are going to initially be AI, and they'll roll it out in small ways, and then it's going to be too big to roll back.
They're back in probably 2020 at some point. I had really stepped away from, like, posting on social media and, like, getting on certain social medias that really made me feel a certain way. I used to, and I talked about this on the show before, so I won't go into it, but, like, I used to really love Instagram, because I liked taking photos. I liked taking photographs. I liked making, like, a collage of photos of things. Like, that was a big thing that I loved. And it was a place for me to share those with friends and family and see a little bit into people's lives. But you get on there now, and it just feels like it's a clone of TikTok. So a handful of years ago, like, I stepped away from a lot of it, except for what is necessary for my job. And there's even still some things like this show that I've talked about before. Like, if I was to really, like, buckle down and do good on social media, I could really probably help out this show a lot. But I'm like, but at what point is that more important, like my mental health? And right now I feel like the fact that I've, like, taken a step back from a lot of that stuff has been, like, a really good thing in my life. It's been hard. I'm joking a little bit, but it really does feel like an addict a little bit, where it's like, I've stepped away from it, and I think, and it's hard for me to want to even give myself a little bit, because I know I'm probably going to fall back into it. And I'm like, I just got to really stay back.
Well, that goes into what I said earlier about these stats. While a lot of people are very negative when it comes to social media, but a lot of people still go to it, because I do believe in many ways it is a drug.
Yeah.
This is a dopamine hit, and people, they like the engagement, they just hate they hate the content because it's generally all negative. Matter of fact, I've got another. In 2020, 64% of Americans say social media has a mostly negative effect on the way things are going in the United States.
Wow,
which is the majority.
For me,
by far. And
then to kind of like the next step of that was I've also been trying to, like, in ways that I can, I'm trying to take back control in my life a little bit, instead of, like, being forced an algorithm and being, like, told what I think I would like. I there's more that I can do, but, like, there are so many ways where, like, I want to make the decision. I don't want some corporate person to think that they know me and want to, or some AI thing that can tell me like,
at the end of the day, all of these social media things are driven by advertisers. And so everything you see is based on the profile that they've made for you and what they've determined that you're likely to buy so that they can sell ads or target ads to you.
You're right.
And so, it's like you look at Facebook ads, for example. I swear that half of them right now are for fake companies or, they're shady. They're shady ads. We looked just in the past 5 years, we've seen pretty much Craigslist has all but gone away. It's still there, but it's not the force that it once was. Now that's been surpassed by Facebook Marketplace. So it's like we've got all these ads that we're bombarded with, and whether you're on TikTok or whether you're on Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform, because we see new platforms being rolled out constantly, and most of them do fail, and they fail spectacularly in a short amount of time. It's all based on marketing. So if we turn off in our settings some of these marketing things on what they can track and what they can follow, you're probably going to get a better exposure to things outside of what they figure that they can just sell you on.
And these companies pay a lot of money for that data.
They do.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get a new iOS or new Android platform and you have that 697,000 page read it and everybody just says, I agree. Yeah. Well, in there, you're agreeing that your advertisement data will ping to the cloud unless you specifically go into the settings and turn it off. But you better remember to do that every time because it usually defaults to where
every
it's
time
always
you get an
on.
update.
So, and if you, like Facebook, for example, will track you not just on Facebook, but through all the different other websites that you go to. So Facebook is tracking what you buy on Amazon and what
I don't think you can get away from it.
But see, maybe I'm crazy because I like that. I like knowing that. Hey, I was looking for this, and now Facebook's telling me where to get a deal.
I have friends that are the same way that are like, I give them certain levels of my information, so that way, like, I can get shown a product that I actually would like. And I agree that would be cool for somebody, but for a person like myself, like, I'm kind of a control freak with things, and so there's some stuff that I'm like, I'm also kind of an old-fashioned guy anyways. Like, I think I've said it on the show before, like, I don't really like ordering things online if I don't have to. Like, sometimes I understand. I mean, like, I think I said before, a lot of this equipment I couldn't buy in a store, but, like, I bought it online. It's a necessary evil at this point. But for me, like, I much rather, if I have the ability to go just grab it or go, like, look at it in person or go to a grocery store, I would much rather that because I don't like the...
They're listening, and all of our phones sitting here, because we're all, sitting around a round table and we all have our phones out. All of our phones are listening to these conversations. So if we start talking about something that has no pertinent value to any of us, let's say we start talking about catnip, we're going to have ads for Chewy on our phone by the time we leave here. And it's just,
I grow that at home.
And you don't even have a cat.
Well, the cat I was kind of taking care of kind of disappeared. I don't know what happened. I don't know if something
Maybe it went and visited the ghost house across the street.
It may have. No, believe it or not, catnip, I know we're kind of completely off the topic.
We do that.
Yes, but catnip, actually, there's a nice tea you can make from catnip. That
I've heard.
Catnip is very medicinal. It's good for stomach. It is in the mint family.
Yes.
That's why it has a little square stalk. Anything with that little square stalk
it's not
is in the mint
Kopi
family.
Luwak.
It's not Kopi Luwak. Hey, look, we have to acknowledge that we are all drinking Kopi Luwak.
Yeah,
and
we'll check that off the bucket list.
Welcome, Bill, to the show with a cup of the most expensive coffee in the world.
It does. It does feel a bit sad because Stoney's not here with us to
I
also
know.
have it, but I know that Miranda's here vicariously through him to enjoy.
I am holding the fort for Stoney, and
right.
I'm hoping that he can get back soon. I'll take a little segue here just to give a little update on him. He is making some strides. We got some good news this week. We got some bad news, but he's a fighter. And the good news was that his vision was not affected. We were worried about that because he had all those
great news.
implants done right before this all happened.
I forgot about that.
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been
Yes, the little he's got the little implanted drains for the glaucoma, and he has the toric lenses, and they stayed in alignment.
That's great.
Considering the force of his injury, we were all kind of shocked and very pleasantly surprised by that.
That's awesome.
His hearing was not good news. That's going to be permanent hearing loss. And so, we've got.
Did he really listen before, though? Be honest.
He listened. He's like a cat. He hears everything.
He hears everything. Okay.
Now, it's hard because now, he sleeps with his good ear in the pillow. And so I'm used to having the dog wake him up in the middle of the night to go out. And so now she can't wake him up because he can't hear on that side.
It probably sounds like it's underwater.
I'm having to get up every night to let the dog out.
Wait. He's not going to listen to this, is he?
Yes, he is. Oh. He listens to
Disregard Stoney.
Yeah.
No, we all miss that. We miss Stoney here.
Right.
And he's such an important part of this show. We are anxious to get him back into the seat.
Yeah.
I know, Miranda, you
may have set your place now.
I know Miranda's like, I really want Stoney to get back, so I don't have to do this anymore.
Right. I'm pretty sure Miranda has been like our pretty consistent fourth host on the show.
She
reoccurring.
She brings a lot of great information every time she comes on. So I love having her.
Speaking of that, is there anything else you want to touch on, Bill? You want to add or?
Did you find any things that you thought were blatantly false on social media?
We could probably have a whole another episode on things that we've all seen that we know were false. Right. Either in our jobs we knew it was false, or we had family that knew it was false, whatever the case is. But it's really hard to find an influencer that you can trust.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you don't know who these people are. You don't know any backgrounds about them. They pop up. And look, I am guilty. I am 100% guilty that I will sit on the couch. A friend of mine will text me a YouTube short or a TikTok video, and I look at that one and I go, let me scroll on to the next one. Next thing I know, it's been 45 minutes, and I've completely ignored life and don't even realize what I've done, and I've been sucked into that trap. Now, I use it as entertainment. I don't use it as this is it. I saw this guy who said, if I work out 10 hours a day and I do this crazy stuff, which obviously I don't work out 10 hours a day, and that's part of it. But anyway, it's scary for my kids, not necessarily me, because I can tell the difference. They will show me things all the time. Look at this, Daddy. And I'm like, that's clickbait. The whole thing is clickbait from the minute. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if they think this is real, I've got some work to do, because now I have to come back and explain why social media is fake and that this person that you really like is not actually what you think they are.
I don't have any kids, so that thought has never really crossed my mind because I never had to be in that scenario. But I now trying to empathize with you and putting myself in that scenario just stressed me out in a whole new way of like, you're right. That is a child that has no idea good or bad in the world, really.
There's lots of people that they figure that if it's online or, if they're seeing it, whether it's on TV or on the radio or it's on social media, that it's true. And they don't think, oh, well, it could be a lie. And, I have been the weight loss realm. That's where my audience is. And I bring women a lot of health information. It's not just weight loss, but that is my bread and butter, so to speak. And I'm always floored at a lot of these ads and posts that I see, across TikTok and Facebook and everything else. And I can tell you, because I used to have a practice here in town, and I would see people that would come into my office and be patients for me, because at the time I was selling HCG, which was a weight loss hormone. And so they were patients of mine. And I would go through on Facebook and I would see their ads, and they were selling dietary supplements, claiming that was how they were losing all their weight. Meanwhile, they're coming to my office to get HCG.
Gosh.
And they're taking Ozempic too.
Well, and that was actually one of the things that I had a lot of people that were concerned about when I polled my group today, was that you see a lot of demonization of people using Ozempic and Mounjaro on these social media sites at the moment. And they're saying, oh, they're taking it away from diabetics, and diabetics can't get their medicine. And it's all these sob stories. And they're real, you see stories that, that all these people taking Ozempic are pooping the bed, and just these horrible, horrible stories. And I'm just like, I call BS. And that's one of the things I do in my group is like, I'll just say, yeah, I call BS. And then I'll explain why I call BS. And, with Ozempic and Mounjaro, those are both GLP-1 medications. Ozempic is a GLP-1, Mounjaro is a GLP-1 and a GIP medication.
I'm a little slow. What does that mean?
Glucagon-like particle
I
one,
put you on
maybe.
the spot, didn't I?
Yeah. I don't know. GLP-1. They are the latest generation of weight loss, and what they do is it affects liver receptors for glucose. And so it started off as a diabetes drug, and that's how it worked. But they found out that a lot of health conditions are centered around glucose metabolism disorders. And so it's not helping just diabetics. And so when I see these things on social media where they're demonizing users of it, or they're saying, oh, well, it's all going to come back the second you stop. Well, what happens the second you stop taking insulin? Does your diabetes not come back? It's very inaccurate. But you'll also see these other posts where people they take Ozempic and they lose 100 pounds in a very short period of time. And I don't think that's safe either. But I don't think it gives people an accurate representation. When you actually look at the data, people that took Ozempic for 68 weeks lost 15% of their body weight. So if you were a 200-pound person and you took Ozempic for 68 weeks, you're going to lose 30 pounds, which is a far cry from these people that are on there saying that they're now a perfect size 2 because they took Ozempic for 5 weeks. It's the data doesn't correlate with the message that people are portraying. And like I said earlier, comparison is the thief of joy. When you see these inaccurate things on social media, you judge your own life, and you judge the lens that you're looking at yourself in, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have these picture perfect meals, and I'm not a size 2, and I don't have, kids that behave, and I don't have, all
I
these
have
different.
kids that behave, just for the record.
I don't. It's like, everybody compares all these things that just aren't real, and it's like you see on Instagram in particular all these pictures of these women influencers that are like, they're always a picture of them flouncing off into some tropical locale with their boyfriend behind them taking a picture, like with they're reaching an arm back kind of thing. The ones I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
And I'm just like, okay, how many of you have actually gone on a holiday and bothered taking a picture like that? It's phony. It's staged.
It's
It's
a snapshot of that particular.
Are you
that's
making
not
fun
their
of my
reality.
Canadianisms?
You said going on a holiday.
Yeah.
I just picked up on that. I like that.
Yeah. And it's called a washroom, by the way.
A washroom, yes.
Yeah.
See, I have lost my accent, I think, but I still have Canadian verbiage. So
I like it.
Yeah.
My stepfather, as we were in the timesharing industry, he used to always write holiday, but with an F in the middle, like HOLIFDAY. And he would turn the page around to people in the sales presentation. He'd be like, "What's wrong with that word?" And be like, "There's no F in holiday." And he's like, "You're right. There's no F in holiday for you." Unless you
Oh, wow.
Ouch.
Jeez.
Dang.
So, hey, timesharing in the 90s was a nasty business.
Yeah, obviously it was. Never got into timeshares. I've just heard too many horror stories about them. I know a lot of people that are in them.
It had its time. It's like social media. It's had its time and it had its place before all of these. Before the internet, timeshares were great because if you were a teacher and knew you had to only travel for the 2 weeks off between Christmas and New Year's every year, you could schedule that and book it, so you always had a vacation to look forward to. But now everybody's got last minute travel, and you can go online to Hopper and all these little things and buy flights and pick up excess inventory for pennies on the dollar. It doesn't have its place anymore.
Especially when you're smart enough to post that you're going on vacation on social media. And you've now told everyone that, hey, I'm going. My house is wide open.
Yeah.
Let's have another Home Alone.
There are plenty of people who put their lives on social media.
Everything.
I think people who do that, they're lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Or narcissists.
Well, it could be. They could be. I would agree with you. There are plenty of narcissistic people, but I think a sizable majority of people are lonely, and they're
crying
not
for attention.
They're not getting their attention in their lives for whatever reason, and so they I mean, I know on my Facebook, people are posting every day. They're posting. It's like, gee,
But Jason, that might be the crux of why social media is as popular as it is because people are lonely. The amount of day-to-day interactions that people now have with other people is much more limited. And in this post-pandemic era, look how many people work from home. And
right.
They never interact with a real live person.
Our lives are a lot more compartmentalized now. Nobody knows their neighbors. People drive home.
We've talked about that.
Right. They drive up in their driveway, they close the garage, and they don't ever interact with the people on each side of them. They just don't.
Yeah. But you can go online onto your favorite social media group, and you might have 500 friends that you interact with in some capacity.
I think it's also interesting, I don't think we have the statistics on it right now, but there is a...
Give me time, I'll find it.
I know. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, America specifically is a country that really prioritizes privacy, in a lot of their facets of life. From what I could be wrong, but I've heard of video.
You're opening up. But
wait,
to go down that line of thinking, I have a lot to talk about on that.
But what I mean is, like as opposed to other countries in the world where they may be more open and maybe more willing to do certain things, I would wager, at least from what little bit of research I've done before in the past, Americans specifically really like privacy, I think, in their physical life. Now, does that correlate to their social media life? I don't think so. Where they post probably everything online, but I think it's all curated at that point.
I think I would go with you and say yes, that Americans like their privacy. I don't think we were like that at one time.
No. Yeah, I'm not saying
there's been a shift. There has been a change in how we kind of view life.
Yeah, and I'll give you a perfect example. When you were a kid and somebody knocked on your door, what'd you do? Ooh, somebody's here to see me.
Right.
And I ran to the door to look through who it was. Now when somebody knocks on the door, I'm like, turn all the lights off.
Yeah.
Everybody get down. Who is at the door? What do they want? Oh, wait, pull up the doorbell camera. We'll look, we'll look
you
from
used to
there.
have to answer the phone to see who was on the other side. Now we look at it and go, yeah, I don't feel like talking to them.
Right.
It's a whole different.
How dare you?
I just think we're a lot more. I hate to say it, I just think we're a lot more selfish now, and we're more concerned with our own little world, and we really, we occasionally allow people in every now and then, but for the most part,
I think it's a lot harder to make friends now than it was 30 years ago.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the age I'm at, but
plus so much.
I interact with my neighbors all the time. I have nothing. I remember our episode we did on homeowners associations.
Yeah.
I was my HOA president for 12 years.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm telling you, nobody wanted the job. But it was nothing for me to go around and knock on people's doors and interact with people. People thought, and when trying to get other people to kind of do that, it was like, well, I don't really go and do that kind of thing. I'm like, what are you scared of? Why does that bother you? Is the idea of human to human interaction, is that so alien to you? To me, it's just like everyday life.
So people are afraid of physical confrontation. They're not afraid of technological confrontation, which is why you have your keyboard warriors, right?
It's safe, and there's no
repercussions. I can't get beat up if I just talk to them on the computer. But out of all the entertainment, unless you get canceled, out of all the entertainment, out of everything in life, the most entertaining thing that I come across is my neighborhood Facebook page.
Really?
It is phenomenal entertainment.
Because you know what it is?
I'm sure it is.
You know what it is? It's because it's probably normal people and normal people problems. That's why it's probably so fascinating, as opposed to these elaborate big stories. It's like I just like to.
It is normalcy.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing the amount of time. I just recall my time of people coming and knocking on my door. And, my neighbor's doing this and that. And I'm like, Did you try to talk to him?
Yeah.
Well, now they blast it on Facebook.
You know, it was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, I mean, how are we supposed to survive here if you cannot even have a conversation with somebody?
Gosh, people are.
I mean,
so
it's one
fun.
thing. It's one thing.
This goes into.
It's one thing if you've had a negative encounter and it was like, okay, but if you've never even interacted with this person, how do you know? I mean, I just, to me, you have to be able to talk to people. And
well, I got to say this. So, my wife and I have been married 15 years, and I actually met her on social media. Not how you think.
Right.
It wasn't on Bumble. It wasn't on these dating websites.
Come on.
So that's a whole nother episode. Yeah. So, it worked out well for us. She love her to death. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. But, how do you trust today with, you see the datelines and these shows about meeting people and this guy's a serial killer or not. Luckily for her, I didn't fit that mold, so she was all right.
Well, but, they had serial killers back in the day too.
So now, how do you know? Like, it goes back to talking to people and meeting people.
That's what I'm saying. I just think that somehow we have lost the ability to actually sit down and just meet people. I mean,
I think it's because
it's kind of depressing.
I think it's because people don't know how to hold, I think, like in-person conversations as much.
Yes.
That's my idea.
Yes.
I think everyone knows how to talk over text. Everyone knows, because no one likes to talk on the phone. No one likes to talk on the phone anymore. Just text me. I'm like, but why? Why can't we just have like I want to
hear your voice.
I have too many thoughts going around in this head of mine for me to try and sit here and fumble through keyboards.
Hold a conversation via text, and believe me, I've done that before.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Especially when I'm trying to drive.
Oh no, heck no, ain't no way. I'm not doing that. Yeah, but anyways, that's the thing.
But it's generational too,
right?
Because you look at, we didn't have to be taught to look at somebody in the eye when we talk to them. You know, that was expected. It was ingrained. And you've got kids that are like Magnus's age, and they won't look you in the eye. You know, it's like you have to say, look at someone, shake their hand. Like, you have to walk them through all these social norms, because it is not a social norm for them. Right. But it was like, we would have got a backhand to the back of our head if we didn't, you know, shake the hand of an adult, or say yes ma'am or yes sir, or, you know, there was just certain social requirements that were standard when we were kids. And that's not the case now.
Which goes into respect. And how has that changed over the past decade?
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it worries me that we can't. I think that's the problem with our political discourse now. We've now become our conversation is behind the computer, and you'll do things and say things to people from that, you know, that medium, versus actually if you got to beat somebody in person and talk to that person that way. And we've now made it very convenient for people to do that. And I just think it's made us actually
It's very difficult to agree to disagree now. And it's almost like we're taught from a young age, especially in sports. I love sports. If you're not on my team, you're on the other team, and now I hate your guts. Yeah, but I don't want to associate.
There's no middle ground,
and I mean, it's hard
that's
now.
what I'm saying. That's the politics now is one side or the other. If you disagree with me, you hate me, and it's like, you know, no.
But we used to be able to have a disagreement where it's like you could have your neighbor and you were a Republican and they were a Democrat, and you still got along and you still found common ground. And now people don't want to find common ground.
Well, I think the biggest difference is what's happening is, just like you said. At one time, we could agree to disagree. Look, we're not going to agree with the human race has never operated that way. But what's different now is what some people will do to punish you if they don't like you,
or they don't,
or
think
you say something that doesn't conform to what their worldview is.
You get canceled, like what we were talking about.
You get canceled, and that to me is what social media has made. It's changed the game, because before social media, you know, other than organizing and trying to find some large protest where you actually have to go out and gather a bunch of people, and that was somewhat difficult to do that.
And you'll be canceled on both sides.
Right.
It doesn't matter which side you're on. It doesn't matter what you believe in. You'll get canceled by the other side.
It's easy. It's easy to organize these type of
I feel like
reactions to certain things.
Well, like, and it's not just people. There's paid services, and that's all they do is, there's bots and services that go and rile people up or put a whole bunch of posts out on a certain topic or a certain celebrity or whatever just to get those clicks and to get that traction. And it's scary. I worry about where things are headed to over the next decade when we look back over the past one and see how much things have changed. But it's like people are so afraid of having confrontation in their real life, but I think they go home and they take it out on everybody online, and they're like they're too aggressive online where they're bullying and they're doing all this other kind of stuff. And we have to find a happy medium again.
Yeah.
And I think, believe it or not, I do believe that people are getting tired of this kind of
right. It feels like
craziness.
For years and years, it's felt like the narrative, at least from what I've felt, has been like you have to believe the same way I do, or else we can't be
right. We can't be friends.
Right. And
really,
right. That's what I'm saying. It's like so. I do agree with what you're saying. Like I do think we're kind of getting to a point now where it's like, hey, there is a way. Like we can agree to disagree. There is some sort of common ground that we can stand on. At least I hope.
Yeah. You see the world one way. I see the world through another way. I mean, it's just nothing's good. That fundamental truth is never going to change.
Well, is there anything else you want to try to add to this topic? I think we're.
This has been great conversation. I'm glad y'all had me on, but I got my social media influencer telling me I got to go hang upside down for 9 hours to lose weight. So let's get this thing going. Get the show closed up.
You got to go take your supplements. You got to get your stuff.
Yeah, take all my supplements and everything.
It's been a fun episode.
Bill, it has been a fun episode. I'm glad that you've been able to join us. I think it's been a great conversation, and I love your additions into our show today. But anyways. For those of you who are looking to reach out to us, the Facebook page /Retrospect Pod, and our social media, if you want to try and reach out, comment to us, or give us a suggestion, we also have an email at getoffendedtogether@gmail.com if you want to go ahead and send us some feedback or some well wishes for Stoney, like we've said in the past. But anyways, other than that, thank you so much for listening, and until next week, bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Take care.
Thanks for having me. See you.